If you've got an email legal question, you just send those in to ask@DeWittLaw.com. That is ask@DEWITT law.com. It could just be a legal question that you've had about somebody you know, or general curiosity, whatever you want. Send us in, surprise us. We'll have fun with it. Ask@DeWittLaw.com. My name is Chris Crawford. Here he is, Moe DeWitt. How we doing, Mo?
Doing great. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good, Mo. Did you end up doing anything for the big match?
The big game.
Yes.
No, just watched it from home.
Big
Watched
tennis
parts
match.
of it from
I
home.
think we called it a tennis match, right?
Yes, we called it a tennis match last week, but the listeners, if they didn't listen last week, may be confused by that. So
True.
should probably clarify we're referring to the big game by
The
that.
Super Bowl. It's over now. We're safe.
I don't know. I don't think that's how it works.
I'm going to pretend it is.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, we watched a little bit. My son was not having it. Wanted his show Stinky and Dirty put back on. Pretty good show about a garbage truck and a excavator.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Good stuff on Amazon Prime there. But
I didn't see the ad for that during the big game.
No ad for that during
No.
the big game. But yeah, just watch it at home, relaxing. You know, could have cared less.
Did you
about
do
the
any
game.
like food? Did you do any special food at least?
We did some nachos. That's what we did.
Hibachi?
No hibachi.
No, okay.
Although I did find, and I don't know if I sent this to you or not. I found, and there was an ad that came to me on social media. There was a company in town
Yeah, I
who will
was
come
listening.
to your house, who will do hibachi, like set up hibachi at your house, like the full experience for you
How soon after our show did this ad pop up on your phone?
immediately.
Like right after the show, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Obviously, the only people who listen to this are the social media bots who
Yes.
are populating ads to us. But yes, apparently you can have your own hibachi party where they bring hibachi chefs, they bring the grills, they bring everything, and they do some volcanoes and all the fun stuff.
That would have been a good idea for Valentine's Day. That would have been
Or
a
the
good
Super
one
Bowl.
to know before. Or that, yes. Yeah. Oh, wow. That actually would be really fun to do for that as well. I actually just be fun to do in general. Who needs a holiday?
In
Just
general,
get hibachi
yep.
in your house.
Exactly.
I had some people over. We had a nice little party. It was fun. But did you do anything for Valentine's Day? Because it was weird this year having the big game and then having Valentine's Day back to back. Like it almost got completely overshadowed as Valentine's Day, that is.
Yeah, a little bit. So we did something on Friday before Valentine's Day, since it fell on a Monday,
Right.
which is just kind of another typical work day. So we took my wife out to a spa, give her spa day, that kind of thing. Nothing too crazy.
Nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, what about you?
Well, so I work pretty much all day Mondays. So like and
Gotcha.
I had friends in town, so we just got like caught up in all that. So I got some roses and surprised my fiance with them, and then I actually a while back I booked out a movie theater
Okay.
for this coming Friday, or
Nice.
well, I guess last Friday now, which is good because I can now say this and there's no way she'd find out. But so I booked out a little movie theater for a little private like fun experience.
That's
thing,
pretty cool.
and we've got a movie to go see. So
What movie can you say?
it's Licorice Pizza.
What is that?
I have no idea, but it gets incredible reviews, and it's
Okay.
like a love story, like a young love story. And I
Interesting.
thought that was more appropriate for a Valentine's Day gift than Jackass
Or Scream.
or Scream. So yeah, it felt like the right move to go with on that one.
Okay. I
So-
do like one of my friends who I've known for a long time, but when he first started dating this girl who's now his wife, he right off the bat said, "I don't believe in Valentine's Day," and just
So
stuck
smart.
with that from day one. I think he was onto something
See,
there.
me and my fiance started dating about like a month before, not even dating either. It was like seeing each other about a month, 3 weeks before Valentine's Day. Horrible timing.
Yeah,
And I didn't know what
a lot
to
of
do.
pressure.
I then made the mistake of asking Twitter and talking about it on the radio, unbeknownst to me that she would already be at a point where she tuned in and listen or like find me on those social media, and just sent me a screenshot during the show and was like, "Oh, so this." And she has a great sense of humor, so she
Yeah.
thought it was funny and everything. But yeah, I should have denounced Valentine's Day. That would have been the right move to do.
Yeah, I think that would have been the right move for
And,
all of us
well,
to do, frankly.
especially because the worst part is we ended up going to the movies like a week or two ago to see something, had the whole theater to ourselves. And I was like, it was like
At a fraction
it,
of the cost.
it was like a week after I had done the booking of the prize, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. What are the odds that this now it's not going to seem nearly as cool? But
Yeah.
either way, I think it's I'd like to make a junction to just pass over it because my fiance's birthday is now 2 weeks
Gotcha.
from today.
So you get hit back to back.
I get slammed. So I'd like to just make a motion that maybe it's just a card and flowers every year.
Okay.
And I'll have to make a hard line on that. But Enough about that, Mo.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and dive in. We've got a continuation on our topic that we've been discussing for the last few weeks with this alimony bill that's been going through the legal system, the legislative process. And if you've missed anything on this, please go back to our last episodes. You can find YouTube, Facebook, DeWittLaw.com, wherever it's podcasted as well. The previous episodes, we go in deep detail
Wherever legal radio is sold.
Wherever legal radio is sold. And so if you want to catch up on everything, go there. But in the meantime, Mo, where are we at as it stands today?
Yeah, so over the 60-day legislative session that they're going to have, this new alimony reform bill is working its way through the legislative session. And just to bring listeners up to speed, basically it is a alimony reform bill like we've seen over the last probably decade a couple times, where they're trying to end permanent alimony. And so as we talked about last week, the amendment or the bill proposes amending permanent alimony to end it, so there's no longer permanent alimony in Florida. It does propose that be retroactive, so it applies to all current divorces and all current people paying permanent alimony. And it also proposes a 50-50 time-sharing presumption, meaning that when anyone comes in front of the court for child custody, or as we refer to it under Florida statutes as time-sharing, the judge starts with a presumption that's 50-50 and then works from there. Right now, there's no presumption. So the bill really hasn't made much progress since last week. It's just been basically sent to the House floor for further consideration. But when I was going back through it, there was one amendment that was made at the last minute that I thought was pretty interesting right before it was sent to the House floor. It's something that we deal with all the time. And so that amendment was that if a parent relocates within 50 miles, so right now under Florida law, if you relocate outside of 50 miles, you have to ask the court's permission or your spouse's permission to be able to, in order to do so. And so you have to file what we call a petition for relocation.
Right.
So this is saying if you relocate within 50 miles, and 50 miles, it's 50 miles as the crow flies, first of all. So it's not 50 driving miles. Which means
we figured it out. It's like it's from Central Florida. You can get kind of
you can get
Tampa.
to like Brevard County and or Volusia County on the coast. So it's a good distance. It's basically can be like an hour drive. So this amendment that they added creates a presumption that if you relocate within 50 miles, that's a substantial material and unanticipated change in circumstances, which means you can file a petition for modification of the parenting plan. So this is something that we see a lot, is basically someone relocates within that 50 miles, right just there on the border, 49.5 miles, which happens more than you think because people know about that, right? And now it's an hour drive each way to get the kids or do exchanges for the kids.
Right.
And you really can't file a petition for modification because under the current law, it's not considered a substantial change. Even though it's an hour drive, it's not a substantial change under the law. So you're just kind of stuck with it, basically.
Right.
So this is addressing that and trying to say, okay, now you can file a petition a petition for modification if it's within the 50-mile radius. But it also, what it doesn't really address is you can move literally down the street and then ask for the parenting plan to be modified.
Right?
Yeah. So, excuse me. Well, I think the intentions are certainly good because that is a problem we see all the time is, hey, they moved an hour away. Now, what used to be a 5-minute drive, I'm having to leave work earlier. I'm getting the kids home at 10 p.m. or whatever it may be. And it makes things much more difficult. And there's not a whole lot you can do about it. But let's say someone, and this also happens all the time, unfortunately, someone enters into a parenting plan that they just don't like, or it wasn't a good deal. And, they entered it, they just wanted the divorce to be over. They said, give me whatever paperwork. They signed a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
A year later, they realized that, this time-sharing schedule, this custody schedule I'm in is horrible for the kids. It doesn't work for me. Well, now all they have to do is move down the block and they can file a petition for modification, where before it was very difficult to modify the time-sharing schedule.
Well, would you even have to, would that person even have to wait a year?
No, I used a year as an example, but they could wait a week, a month.
Right.
All
like, theoretically, like if they set up the parenting plan and then what if they're still trying to figure out the house situation? They agree on a parenting plan. What if that person then signs a new lease on somewhere to live? Could they theoretically be like, that's me moving? And even though it's been a week, I want to modify it because I realized I messed up?
Under the way the amendment's currently written, absolutely.
Now, would they grant that is another question. Probably not. But
see, it gets you over the hurdle. So right now, and let me explain this because it
opens Pandora's box too.
to some degree. But right now, in order to file a petition for modification to modify the parenting plan, there has to be a substantial change in circumstances that was unanticipated at the time the final judgment was entered.
Okay.
So something has to have substantially changed.
In that
right?
case, you'd probably be expecting the person to move out of the house.
Well, but just moving down the block right now is not a substantial change.
Right.
So there has to be something that has really changed. And what that is can be very ambiguous sometimes. Some judges take a very hard line on it, and it's very difficult to get something modified without something that's really serious and substantial. This opens the door to where basically if you move anywhere from your current residence, then, and that was not anticipated at the time of the last final judgment, then you can go back and modify the parenting plan, is basically what it's saying. Now, I would imagine they probably put some limitations on this or something along those lines. But that's the way it's currently written, at least the current amendment. Which, what if you have a parent who, we've seen this before, one parent's kind of transient and then pops up and asks for custody every once in a while, then disappears and then pops up again. I mean, basically, they could
just randomly pop in and say, "Hey, I want to." Yeah,
right. And before, we're kind of able to cut this off and say, all right, there's no substantial change in circumstances here. There's no reason that you should be seeking custody at this point in time, or whatever, or modifying the custody schedule, whatever it may be, if they had supervised or whatever it may be. So you can kind of cut that off early on. Where here, it may allow them to get past those initial stages to proceed with the lawsuit.
Is there any realm of possibility of them maybe limiting the amount of modifications you have? Like, say, you're only allowed to modify this if you move 3 times. If you move 3, is there a way to limit it?
Well, I think that's a dangerous move too, because you have people who have to move for their jobs. You
That's
have
a good point.
people who are in the military who have military orders to move. And so you don't want a situation where a parent is taking action that's adverse to the family, which essentially is adverse to the children, because they're trying not to move because they don't want to hit their 3 strikes on moving or whatever it would be.
Yeah.
So, anytime when you have these kind of hard, fast rules, it can create issues in the legal system because it's just impossible to anticipate every single possible scenario that's presented.
Right.
And so that's why, people often ask me, they go, if I do this, what's going to happen here? And I go, well, the legal system isn't like that. It's not math.
It's not if
right?
and when.
Right. Exactly. So, and that's why these, a lot of the way these statutes are written are more discretionary, where they give the judge discretion, which obviously has its own issues, right? And we've talked about that before. Judges are humans. They make good decisions. They make bad decisions. It's just the nature of people, of humans. But if you make very rigid standards, if you make very, if this happens, then that happens, then if you don't fit properly in that scenario, it can be very difficult, or you could get a very bad result because that scenario was probably not anticipated. Usually when these laws are passed, they're talking to a handful of individuals, or maybe the legislators have their own personal experiences, and that's kind of what's going in. They discuss it in committee and they try to anticipate things. But there's always going to be a scenario they miss. There's always going to be something that's not anticipated when they're discussing this legislation. And so, on the one hand, I'm sure this amendment here was added because they see that scenario where someone moves an hour away, right? And they see, those families and how they have to drive hours and the kids are in the car till midnight or whatever it may be. But on the flip side, they didn't anticipate if you move 10 minutes away, because that's also within 50 miles.
It was like a thought assumption that the moving would be far away regardless.
Right. What they're really kind of looking at is, okay, what if you move between 35 and 50 miles away, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what they're thinking there, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
But they didn't fully,
they didn't really
flesh that out, essentially.
Okay. Interesting stuff there. You got any questions about that? Feel free to send us an email, ask@DeWittLaw.com. That is ask@DeWittLaw.com. We'll talk a little bit coming up about Bob Saget in this lawsuit that his family's filed here in Orlando. Plenty more show on the way. You're listening to the DeWitt Law Review on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580.
Pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. We just settled a case for a client for $40,000. Client said they were okay with settling between $25,000 and $30,000, but we wanted to push it to get them the maximum value possible. And this client was super cool. They let us do that, and they got a great result because of that. So remember, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
Welcome back to the DeWitt Law Review, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's News and Talk. Just a reminder, please check out Moe DeWitt's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you find it. He's got it at DeWitt Law Firm. You can go and find a lot of cool videos and things that he's been doing on social media. And also check out the website, DeWittLaw.com, where you can submit a case evaluation. Check out past archive shows and the legal blog as well. Mo, let's talk a little about this Bob Saget lawsuit, the family filing, the release that they don't want any of the information let out, anything put out into the public. It feels like, this is something that's come from the Kobe Bryant issue that happened with the photos getting leaked, but this isn't something that's uncommon, right?
Well, it actually goes further back than Kobe Bryant. It actually started with Dale Earnhardt. And if you remember, the media got a hold of his autopsy photos. And after that, in the state of Florida, there was a law passed that made all autopsy records, reports, photos confidential, except for governmental purposes, to further a governmental purpose for an investigation or something along those lines. So really what the family has done here is this is almost a preventative injunction, because the media has either sought to get the records or they have information to believe that they're going to seek to try to get the records. And so the only time that the records can be released is upon a showing of good cause. So basically they've gone in to try to head that off and basically say, okay, these need to be kept confidential unless there's a showing of good cause, have an injunction entered to stop those records from being released, which really they really didn't need to do because the law already stops that from happening. Again, I think this is kind of an extra precautionary step that they're taking to really try to make sure that these photos are not released out there. I don't think that's the way they want Bob Saget remembered, and that's probably why they're doing this. I don't really, a lot of people are trying to allude that there's maybe something sinister here, or because of the cause of death or something like that. I really think these people just don't want autopsy photos of their loved one released, and so that's why they're taking this action right away. But again, after Dale Earnhardt passed away and those photos were released, the Florida legislature already passed a law making autopsy records confidential, and they're not supposed to be released anyways. So this is just, again, another precautionary step the family's taking in case somebody leaked them or somebody has them or they're afraid that they're going to get leaked, or maybe they have some information that the media is already trying to get them through a certain channel.
Well, you had TMZ, leaking some information out already, so they probably have a concern that maybe that's floating out there or somebody has some information. Yeah, they're just kind of, protecting themselves and the family.
Yeah, and so this lawsuit was against Orange County Sheriff's Office. There's an injunction against them that prohibits Orange County Sheriff's Office and the medical examiner from releasing those records. So if they do turn up somewhere, obviously that's very concerning. I think it's really just putting them on notice. Hey, make sure these things are locked down.
Make sure they're locked and sealed up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. All right, good stuff there, Mo. Appreciate that. If you want to go ahead and get in touch with the DeWitt Law Firm, you can give them a call at their office at 1-800-DeWitt Law. That is 1-800-339-4885. 1-800-339-4885. We've got your emails coming up. You're listening to the DeWitt Law Review on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580.
I've told you before, I'm going to tell you again. Right here's a check for $25,000. Initial offer was $7,000. On average, with an attorney, you get 3 times more than those who go at it alone. Injured on the go? Just call Mo.
And welcome back to DeWitt Law Review, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's News and Talk, with you here every Sunday from 10 to 11 a.m. If you've missed past shows, you want to catch up on them, feel free to go back and check them out on YouTube at DeWitt Law, DeWitt Law Firm. You can also check them out on Facebook as well, DeWitt Law Firm. Also, wherever radio podcasts are sold, it's not for sale, it's free, but most said where they're sold earlier, so I'm going to steal that from him. You can go ahead and check that out everywhere. You can catch up on the alimony bill. Mo, before we dive into the questions here, too, let's go ahead and just put a bow on that topic. So as we stand now, it just continues to have to wait and see if it makes it through the process, right?
Yeah, so basically now it's headed to the House floor. They're going to debate it and vote on it eventually. And so that's where it's headed next.
And what was the March 15th or something is the deadline?
So the legislative session's 60 days. I don't remember exactly when it started, but it's got to be coming up here in March, yeah. So it's about March 15th, if I had to guess.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll have an update for you again next week, most likely. In the meantime, though, let's go ahead and hit some of these questions up. If you want to email Mo, You can send these questions ask@DeWittLaw.com. That is ask@DeWittLaw.com. They don't have to be something specific pertaining to you. It can just be a general curiosity that you've always had relating to the legal system. Let's start with this one, Mo. I've recently hired a moving company to help me move across the country. I paid them $4,700 to handle the move. And upon arriving here, I saw they smashed my television, broken a lot of my pictures, and caused damage to my furniture. They're saying they will only pay $137 as the contract I signed limits the damages to pay per pound. Is there anything I can do?
So this is an interesting one. So we'd have to take a look at the contract in detail, but it's a good cautionary tale because when you enter into a contract, you can limit damages. So I think we've talked about on the show, liquidated damages,
Right.
Which, sometimes damages are ambiguous. So people put liquidated damages into a contract, basically meaning if the contract's breached, you have to pay X. This is kind of the reverse of that. It's, hey, if we break your stuff, the damages are weighed by the per pound value. Now, obviously, there's a reason they're doing that. I think we all know what the reason is. Excuse me. So that's why it's important to actually read the contract, see what it says, and sometimes in these kinds of contracts there'll be options. So they'll say, okay,
Which kind of coverage would you like?
exactly. Do you want to pay for the insurance for a little bit more, or are you going to be limited to the pay per pound? And in cases of moving companies, I'm sure there's some people who work for moving companies out there who could probably speak to this better than I could. But that's probably a question you want to ask when you're hiring a moving company. Hey, if something gets broken, what's your policy on making it right? Do you do pay per pound, or do you have insurance to fix it? Do you offer insurance? Those are kind of important questions, especially when you're doing a big move like this, where you're moving across the country. You're not just moving a few pieces of furniture around town. Obviously, there's a lot of items in there that can be quite valuable. We had a case a number of years ago where the guy, he basically boxed up his entire house, all the furniture in his house, and he put it in, with one of these moving companies, put it in storage. And it was like 5 containers of furniture. Well, the moving company lost 2 of the containers, and they admitted they lost them. It took them a while to admit that. At first they said, "Oh, we only had 3 out of the 5, and you only put 3 in here. We found the paperwork." I said, "No." And the moving company had been sold several times, so there was some miscommunication there. But eventually, they admitted that they lost 2 of the containers. And then the question becomes, well, how do you value that furniture, right? Because is it the value of buying brand new furniture? Probably not. Is it garage sale value, or versus replacement value of buying brand new furniture? So these are all questions that you kind of want to look at when you're doing something like this. Because typically, once furniture is used, it's worth a lot less, obviously. Right. So just something to consider. And there the client was very happy, and then we were able to work something out with the insurance company who was covering the loss there and get it figured out for them. But, typically they're going to try to beat you up on the value of the property, even if they admit they were wrong, even if they admit that they did something wrong.
Right. And this is, $137 in I've never heard of that price or pay per pound.
Yeah, I've seen that before. It'll be like, okay, well, if something's damaged, we'll pay you 27 cents per pound or 10 cents per pound or whatever it is. It's actually, I think it's fairly common in moving contracts. Again, I'm sure there's people out there who could probably tell us more about it, who maybe work for some moving companies. But yeah, I've definitely seen that in some moving contracts.
I would definitely look into the full kind of coverage on that because, you're sounds like a lot of small things were broken, which wouldn't be very heavy.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the TV probably costs $500 to replace for a TV, but TVs don't weigh very much anymore, right?
Man, wow, that is tough, Mark. I'm sorry. Hopefully that can be something worked out. Maybe there's something in the contract, as you said, that might be able to free him. But
yeah, hopefully if they're a good, reputable company, they're going to want to do right by them. And if you contact them and talk to them, maybe they're willing to work something out.
They might just be able to work it out.
Yeah, but just if you're hiring a mover, I think that's always a good question to ask is, if something's damaged, what's your guys' policy on that? Is it pay per pound? Do you offer insurance? How do you go about handling those claims?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Let's go on to this next one here. I was supposed to report for jury duty on the 24th, but completely forgot as I am currently in the throes of COVID. I just saw the notice and remembered. What should I do? Is there a proper way I need to proceed?
So you can actually be held in contempt of court for not showing up to jury duty. It very rarely happens. But every once in a while, you'll see a county who will call in all the people who skip jury duty and say, hey, why did you skip jury duty? This kind of thing. They'll have a whole, line of people and kind of, possibly hold some people in contempt, but it's really just to encourage people to come to jury duty. In this case, it sounds like an honest mistake. You just forgot about it. What I would do is go ahead and call the number on the jury summons and just say, hey, I forgot about jury duty. What should I do? And typically they'll either say, hey, don't
Are you
worry
sure?
about it. Yeah, are you sure? Typically they'll say, hey, don't worry about it. Not a problem. Or they'll say, we'll put you back in for another date and you'll get a new summons in the mail. But you want to be proactive about it. You don't want to ignore those kinds of things. Certainly don't want to be, summoned down for a contempt of court hearing, which is unlikely to happen, but it could. So I would reach out to them, explain the situation, and I'm sure they'll be happy to work with you.
Did you purposely call this number? No, yeah. I feel like that's not how most people handle jury duty in those situations. Good for one to try and sort that out, though.
Yeah, it's a good idea if you can.
Better safe than sorry in those situations, for sure. Let's go on to this next one, Mo. I have another question for you. My daughter was involved in an auto crash on I-75 a couple years ago. She was in the caboose in a 3-car rear-end crash. I love that he used caboose. She says the first car stopped in the middle of traffic, and she was the last car to hit. Now she is being sued, I guess. State Farm is looking to serve her papers. She needs a lawyer. Can you recommend what I should do?
So if you're being sued as part of being in the at-fault party in a car accident, you want to notify your insurance company because they're going to appoint counsel for you, essentially. So first thing you want to do, and you want to do it right away when you're served with the papers, is call your insurance company, let them know, and send them a copy of the paperwork. That's the big mistake people make, is they ignore it or something along those lines, and that can really get you into trouble because then the insurance company may say, oh, we're not going to provide coverage on this claim. Now you're on your own because you didn't notify us of the lawsuit. So again, burying your head in the sand, ignoring things typically doesn't work out very well for you. So give your insurance company a call. That's part of your coverage. They're going to appoint counsel for you. They're going to defend the claim for you and handle it from there, hopefully. So that's the first thing you want to do, is just give your insurance company a call, let them know, and then send them a copy of the documents you were served.
Why would, in this situation, she as a passenger be getting sued? Is that because maybe the driver didn't have enough insurance to cover damages, or how does that work?
If she's a passenger in the vehicle, typically she would have no liability.
Right.
She's not in control of the vehicle in any way. There's not typically,
Especially sitting in the back seat.
sitting in the back seat. The only time she could possibly be liable is if she owned the vehicle. If her name was on the title of the vehicle, then she could have some potential liability there. Because I've said it before on the show, I had a law professor in law school who would always say, handing your keys to a vehicle is like handing them a weapon.
A loaded
Florida,
gun.
a loading gun in
Something,
Florida.
yeah. I think, yep.
That's what he would always say, because if you hand them the keys to your car and that car is in your name, you're fully liable for anything they do with it. And so that's kind of the idea behind his statement there. But yeah, her name must have been on the title of the vehicle. That's the only time a passenger could possibly be liable in a situation like this.
Could it be, unless maybe the person driving the car is suing because she distracted the driver or something? Could that be as far as where this is going?
I've never seen that, but hey, anything's possible. I would say this is America, and anyone can sue anyone for any reason. But I have not seen that before. I've not seen a distracted driver negligence suit yet, where the passenger distracted the driver, therefore is getting sued.
Yeah, it's just interesting because it's a weird scenario that they're portraying here, and
It
he
is
didn't mention that it was her car at all. That's the only reason why.
No, but it's got to be. That's the only way. The only reason that the other driver would be suing her was if it was her vehicle.
It was her vehicle.
Yeah, because otherwise, if you're a passenger in a car accident claim and you're injured, typically there's multiple people you can go after. So even if, let's say, you're the passenger in an at-fault vehicle, Chris, you're driving the vehicle, you're at fault, I'm the passenger.
Why am I driving? Why can't you be driving?
Oh, we can switch it around, but we'll talk about that later. But anyways, I mean, you can go after, so if you're hurt, you can go after the person who's driving the vehicle you were in, as well as any other vehicle who may have contributed to the accident or caused the accident. So usually as a passenger, there's a number of different options available to look at to see for potential liability, potentially who's at fault. In this case, though, I'm guessing she's got to be the owner of the vehicle, or her name has to be on the title of the vehicle, maybe with some other people. That's the only real way that I could see that she could be liable here.
She was in the caboose. Just doesn't make sense.
Yep.
And it's an odd case, Mo.
It is.
Good emails this week. If you want to join the show and send an email, ask a question of Mo, all you got to do is go ask@DeWittLaw.com. Just pull it up, ask@DeWittLaw.com. Just send us your legal question. Again, it can be something that you actually need to know a legal answer to. It could be something that you've always wanted to know the legal answer to. It could be something that you know a friend's going through and you just want to help them out. Just send those in, ask@DeWittLaw.com. That is ask@DeWittLaw.com, and we will read those live out here on the air. Also, though, don't forget you can set up an appointment with the DeWitt Law Firm at 1-800-DeWitt-Law. That's 1-800-339-4885. 1-800-339-4885. You can also head over to DeWittLaw.com and handle things there. We've got the Mo Pro Tip of the Week coming up. You are listening to the DeWitt Law Review on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's News and Talk.
There you go, Crystal. $200 gift card. Congratulations.
Can I give you a hug?
Of course, yeah.
I hear you on the News Junkie all the time.
Thank you. I'm glad you came out.
Me too.
Thank you,
Hey, welcome back to the DeWitt Law Review on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's News and Talk. Don't forget, if you've missed this show or the beginning of the show or past shows, whatever it might be, head on over to DeWitt Law Firm on social media, Facebook, YouTube, and you can check out the past shows there. We actually do set up cameras. You see our beautiful faces now, much to your chagrin, I guess. You're going to have to deal with it if that's how you want to take the show in. But you can just sit there and listen as well. You can find that at DeWitt Law Firm on Facebook, on YouTube. Also, though, Mo does some great stuff on Twitter and Instagram, TikTok as well. So check the DeWitt Law Firm out at those sites too.
What is TikTok?
I don't even know, man. What is Bitcoin?
Knows.
What is crypto? What is everything? It's so crazy how quickly you feel old once you actually start to get older, I guess. And I'm still not even old. Like, I'm only 29, but it's just wild how quickly things do change and how I used to make fun of my parents for stuff like this all the time. And it's like, oh, no, you're younger than your parents are, and you're starting to fall behind on a lot of these things. So, can't wait for technology to overwhelm me. In the meantime, though, Mo, let's go ahead and deliver your Mo Pro Tip of the Week.
Yeah, so we were talking about contracts earlier and talking about the moving contract. You know, anytime you're entering into a substantial contract, a moving contract may not be one of them, but you know, whether it's an employment contract or something that's going to be substantial in your life, a real estate contract, you know, get an expert, get a lawyer to review it, get a little bit of advice there. And certainly don't try to draft the contract yourself. Don't use those Google forms. I see it all the time. I see people make huge mistakes. I was talking to a guy the other day who was purchasing an airplane. And he didn't do it properly. It wasn't expensive. Oh, I mean, it was expensive, but you know, it wasn't a jet. It wasn't a giant airplane. But he didn't do it properly. He didn't set up the LLC properly. He got his airplane seized. He's got a big mess on his hands now. He's got to pay a ton of money in legal fees. Not something we handle, by the way. But he's got to pay a ton of money in legal fees to get this whole situation straightened out. Something that could have easily been avoided for probably $500 in legal fees up front will now cost him tens of thousands of dollars to try to fix. So, you know, anytime you're making a big purchase, entering into a contract that has substantial consequences or potential substantial consequences, spend a couple $100. Go talk to an attorney who handles that area of law. Just get some advice. I know this is kind of a no-brainer pro tip of the week, but I see it so much that I feel like I have to say something about it. You know, on the divorce side, we've talked about it many times. Hey, you know, don't sign anything unless you get an attorney to review it. It drives me nuts. People make huge mistakes. I talked to somebody this week who already made a big mistake because they were trying to do it on their own. It'll cost them $200,000 probably.
Oh my gosh!
Because he signed something he shouldn't have signed. He's going to lose $200,000 in assets because he did it improperly. So again, and it would have cost him $100 to get some advice on that probably, and be told, hey, don't do that. Here's why. Here's what you should do. So just speak to the professionals. You do much better in life when you consult with professionals, whether it's in the legal side or anything you're doing. If you haven't done it before, consult with a professional. I always say, if I'm getting knee surgery, I don't want to watch a YouTube video and try to do it myself. I
Yeah.
want to go to the guy who's done 1,000 before, and there's a reason for that.
I like the idea of somebody right now sitting at like their like kitchen table or something, listening and writing up a contract as we say this, and just being like, "No, I got this. I got this." Like, no,
I
you
don't
got
need to listen to this
yeah,
guy.
no, you should. You got to go to the professionals on it. I mean, and it doesn't have to be somebody buying a plane, right? Like,
No, it
This
doesn't.
was just the closest example you have.
Right, yeah. That's one that's top of mind because it happened last
Recently,
week
although
or
you
two,
did try to pass it off, you almost said, "Well, it wasn't." I mean, it wasn't a big plane. This is what you were almost going to say.
Well,
and
I didn't mean,
like-
it's not 747. It's a general aviation aircraft, but yes.
I don't. I would imagine that. I would take I think it's a safe wager to say nobody listening right now owns a plane.
Oh, I bet you're absolutely wrong.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's probably true. You've got the little mini airport there.
Yeah,
the
I mean, there's
business airport.
executive. We'll see 10 planes fly by in the next minute here.
That's a good point. Am I severely underestimating the amount of people that own planes in the world?
Yeah, well, you have to remember there's single prop aircraft. You can get a single prop for 30 grand or so, like the price of a car, an older one. But so there's
okay.
definitely people listening who own planes.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I apologize to all those plane owners out there. I thought they were way more expensive than that.
No,
I thought you'd have to pay
I mean, they
like $1
can
million.
be. Don't get me
for a
wrong,
plane.
they can be, but
I mean, I don't know. I think Mo's got a plane somewhere. That's what I'm starting to sound like.
don't tell anybody.
Oh, Mo, appreciate you coming out, hanging out with us here again. Appreciate everyone tuning in and listening to us this week. We'll be back at the same time, same place next week. Don't forget, you can give the office a call at 1-800-DeWitt Law. That is 1-800-339-4885. Head over to DeWittLaw.com as well. You can submit a case evaluation there. Check out past archive shows and the legal blog. Of course, just mentioned social media at DeWitt Law Firm there. Go ahead and check out the past shows. Check out Mo on social media. And, of course, all those past shows that you can catch up on as well. Everywhere you can find podcasts. For Mo DeWitt, I'm Chris Crawford. We got a plane to catch. We got to go jet on Mo's flight here. So we'll talk to everyone next week, same time, same place, Sunday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. You've been listening to the DeWitt Law Review.